Johnny Harris has one of the most recognizable and engaging visual styles on YouTube. And if you've ever wondered how does it all work, well, there are three distinct elements that make it specifically Johnny Harris style. One is the sketch markings, second is the analog and modern hybrid aesthetic, and finally, it's the masterful collage compositions that bring it all together. And in this video, we're going to break down all the three elements and put it all together into one final Johnny Harris style collage scene. By the end of this video, you're going to learn a lot of tips and tricks about After Effects, some pro tips on collage animation, and you're going to learn some crucial insights on visual storytelling. And by the way, if you want to follow along with me inside After Effects, then definitely download the project files and all the relevant high quality assets that I'm going to use in this video. I'm giving it away for free. Link is in the description below. Now, let's get into it. Okay, so now we're in After Effects. And as you can see, I've already set up all the folders and assets necessary for this project. This video is going to be stepping up in complexity and techniques as we go along. And what's important to understand about the visual storytelling aspect of Johnny Harris, and it's important because that's going to really help us understand why we are learning these techniques in this Johnny Harris style. Johnny Harris is an amazing visual storyteller, but he's also a journalist. That is his niche on YouTube. And what he does is a specific kind of narrative storytelling. It is an evidence-based narrative storytelling. So he kind of finds the evidence that he wants to provide. He first kind of gets the argument he wants to put across. Then he knows the evidence that's going to back that argument. And why it's important for the visual artists is because these evidences are the things that the visual artists are focusing on and using techniques to highlight, because those are the key visuals. Those are the key things that's bringing his whole video forward. So that's why the sketch markings, that's why the collage compositions, all of these techniques are all being focused onto that final goal of highlighting the evidence that Johnny Harris is trying to put forward so that his argument has weight in this journalistic type storytelling. So what I want to do is I want to put a dotted background first on the white background that you see here, because I don't like starting completely from an empty page. I like to kind of fill up the screen a little bit with some interest, because it already kind of gives you some depth and some interest to work on. I'm going to quickly lock both of these layers, and I don't have to rename the layers because I've already named the layers in the project folders. So that's really helpful. Always name your layers. Ben Marriott is absolutely right. And now that I've got the dotted BG, I'm also going to kind of put on the assets that I need. So I've already got some of the assets prepared here. I've got some articles. And what I'm going to do is just add one of these articles here. We can add a few more just to get the composition to be a bit more interesting. But again, we'll dive deep into composition later in this video, so hang around. This part is not going to be so specifically about composition. It's going to be more about the sketch markings, but we'll get to the composition definitely. So what I'm doing now is just putting a little bit of rotation here just to make it a bit more interesting. And I'm also, of course, adding some depth. We could add so much of effects as well. We could go in and kind of add some shadow behind the first article, for example. Why don't we just go ahead and do that? I'm just going to open my menu here and just go for drop shadow. So now we have the drop shadow here on the first article. I can simply just toggle down layer styles here, and then I've got the drop shadow effect right here. And what I simply want to do is just to make the size slightly bit more and reduce the opacity a little bit just to keep it touch. Again, I'm not going to go detailed into effects right now. I just want to show you guys the sketch marking technique. So the simple thing that I do is I usually just go take an ellipse, and we want to go into like a part where we want to do the sketch marking. So for example, I want to just highlight this part here, right here. And as you can see, I already have the stroke turned on. So to do the sketch markings, have the fill turned off and have the stroke turned on. And I also want to kind of rotate it a slight bit here. Oh, the anchor point is not centered. So I'm just going to press Y and hold down Command to snap to center. And then I'm going to use R to rotate this slightly so that it's like covering the text. So how about -2? I could go a bit more. So -4 is still fine. And it's not covering any of the text, and it's nicely rounding on the text. The immediate next thing that I do is go to effects and presets and type roughen edges. Then I just drop that onto the layer already. I will bump up the complexity to say around 8. And that really gives you that kind of sketch marked look. And I'm also going to bump up the border up to 10. And I think that is already quite good. Looks like a pen felt marker kind of thing. Then what I'll simply do is go into the shape layer, double click or press enter actually, excuse me, and I'm going to just rename, call it sketch markings 1. And I'm going to go into effects and then I'm going to go into contents, ellipse, and right here you'll see the stroke. Open it up, twirl it down, and here you'll get some more really nice stroke editing options. The first thing that I want to do is go to taper and then start the end length. So the moment I start the end length, you can see what's going on here. It now looks like it started a little bit like thin starting, and then it ends like with a much thicker ending. So that's usually how pen marks happen, right? Like ink starts flowing gradually more and more the more you press. So I want that a little bit of an effect, and I think it's a bit too much now. I would kind of bring that down to around 10. That's good. And then go to the start with as well and then put that to 10, but I don't want it to make it so exact. This is a huge tip and it's a pro tip. Anything you do in terms of visual art, the thing that adds interest is when you add intentional variation. Whenever you vary elements on the screen, it adds that extra bit of interest. Unless you need to mirror something, unless you need something to be identical, then of course you have to do that. But if there isn't such a constraint like that, then you can absolutely vary things, and it kind of works in every way. You can vary the sizes of objects, vary the shapes, vary the colors. And here what I'm doing is I'm varying the amount that the start and end length of the stroke. So I won't make it 10 pixels and 10 pixels on both sides. I will make it 10 here and 20 here. So it's got that kind of non-exactness, adds that realism and human quality part into this style. And that's very important in this Johnny Harris style collage animations because it's handmade style. So I'm going to put this at 20. As you can see now, it's just different. I would even bump it up more to make a bigger difference. So now we'll have it lesser here and a bit more here. So what I want to do is, I think it's a bit too thick for my taste. I'm just going to go to sketch markings here and I'm going to drop that down to say 15. And this is really what makes the sketch markings look like a highlighter pen, because it's got this kind of transparency. Right now you can't see behind that stroke mark. So to create that, I'm simply going to go here to mode and I'm going to change that to multiply. And the moment you make that multiply, it becomes like quite a bit transparent and you can see it's almost like a felt mark. I'm also going to make this slightly more rotated and also bring the scale slightly down. It's a bit too wide for my liking, and I don't mind again overlapping it slight bit. And actually I want to go even more inside and edit those path lines. I don't like how high up it is. I would like to bring them down, but how do I do that in a very deliberate way? I need more control, and to do that I need to go here in contents of the shape layer, ellipse, and then ellipse path. I will right click here and click convert to Bezier path. Convert to Bezier path makes the shape editable, which means when I click on path, I can now see these points. Let me zoom in. Now you can see there are these kind of points. I'm actually also going to change the color of this layer so you can see what I'm talking about clearly. So here the green line, and I'm going to click on path again, twirl it down, and make sure you click not on the path kind of group, but the actual path layer. And now you can see these kind of lines. So what I want to do is kind of just take that and bring that slightly down. And now we have something a bit more squeezed and a bit more realistic. So here we have one of the sketch markings that I want to show. I am going to make another sketch marking actually, and I'm going to just go along a straight line. And this is going to be more like not an elliptical sketch mark, but like a highlight sketch mark, which you can go over like text. This is so much used in Johnny Harris style videos. So I'm going to just do that one as well. And then I'm going to go straight to the effects controls of the first layer. And now I have the roughen edges effects already that's been applied here. I'm going to just Command C, copy the layer, copy the effect from there, go to the new layer and just paste it. And I'm also going to, of course, go to mode and click multiply. And there you go. Now we have these nice sketch markings, and I'm going to just move this slightly away from the elliptical sketch marking just to again add that space variation. And I'm also not liking how perfectly straight it is. I'm just going to press Y and get hold of this anchor point, bring it here in the middle, and I'm simply going to rotate it very, very slightly. We don't want it to be completely weird. So I'm just going to go like 2, and that's perfect for me. So now what we're going to do is let's try to animate these sketch markings, right? And again, this is very plain and simple, basics After Effects. I'm going to just go twirl this down, and I'm simply going to go to this add property here, right here for the shape layer, press it. And in the list, you'll find something called trim paths. Click on trim paths, and now it'll open up this group. If you just scroll down here, and if you have things opened up here like this, you may not find it. So I would suggest just close all of this, close transform, and trim paths should have been added in the contents group. Just open contents, close the ellipse, and right here is the trim paths that we just added. Open up trim paths, and now what we're going to do is, if I just move the start property, you can see now it's going around like that. So what I'm going to do is simply go down to, I'm going to simply bring that to 100, press the stopwatch key to put a keyframe. I'm going to just move this all the way in front, and I'm going to run it, and there you go. That's how it looks. And what I want to do is just add some easing to this. And actually, I want to go back to the composition settings and just increase the time a bit more. Let's make it 1 minute 30. So we have some buffer to show actually what's going on. And then I'm going to just multi-select the keyframes, right click, or you can press F9 on the keyboard to easy ease, but I'm going to right click here, go to keyframe assistant and just click easy ease. And what I would like to do, I would like to edit the graph editor. And if you guys don't know about the graph editor, there's a lot of amazing tutorials out there on YouTube to learn it. I'm going to do a video on this as well, so stick around for that. As you can see, the curves just moves up like this and then goes up to a peak and then comes down, which basically means that it's going to start slow, speed up, and then slow down at the end. But what we want is, I want it to start way slow and then speed up at the end, and then very quickly on the way out, it just slightly slows down. So I think that is a bit more realistic when it comes to human sketch mark, for example. All right, so now to wrap up this sequence, I'm just gonna animate the other sketch markings as well. So I'm just going to do a camera effect here, because right now we just see the two sketch markings in front of us. What makes it, like I was explaining before, like evidence based, is when you really zoom in and focus into those sketch markings and the text that's being kind of circled or striked. And what I'm going to simply do is just create a null, right click here in the timeline, go to new, click null object. I'm going to just press enter and call it camera, and then make sure I unlock those last two layers. The BG can still stay locked, it's just like a base, but everything else then must be pick whipped. So you just take this spiral, click on the spiral, hold it down and drag, and you see this kind of thing that's being stretched out. And then when you link it to something, then all these layers get linked to that layer, which means when that layer moves, all these layers move with it. So this is how I set up a quick camera rig. I don't go into 3D camera and stuff yet, because we are not in 3D and we don't have to do something complex. So I'm going to just link it to the camera. And now when I like scale up the camera, then I'm scaling up everything as well. So that's something that we can do. And again, we can go into detail about all the different camera like movements. And this is again going back to what you should know as a motion designer. You should also be a very good filmmaker. You should know the different camera movements, a pan, a dolly, a tracking movement. What are those? How do you augment that in After Effects? These are things that one should learn. And those make such a big difference in the narrative. All those decisions make such a big difference in the narrative, and frankly, it creates the whole narrative. For example, if I press scale here, and right when this is happening, the elliptical stroke, and we're going to only focus on this right now, we're not going to focus here. I'm going to just zoom in, and by the way, I'm going to press camera and hold down shift and press P to show only those two properties, to only show the position property. So I can press shift and select what properties I want to show, so that I don't cram up the focus area. I just want to focus on those two properties. Again, pro tip, that really helps in speeding up workflows. So I'm going to go to position as well, because we are also going to be putting a keyframe on the position. I'm going to put a keyframe on the position, and then I'm going to scale it down, scale it right here. And as you can see, we are not positioned correctly, which is why I put the position property. So now we've just scaled straight in. I can either, of course, change the position property here. I could even just drag this null anchor point right here and just move it to this part and kind of make sure I'm nicely zoomed in to that thing that we are trying to show that we are circling. And then I can just come back, and as you can see, I'm zooming in like that. And I'm going to take the keyframes once more, and you guys know the drill. F9 on the keyboard, graph editor. I'm actually going to now make this kind of slow to fast. So start slow and then zoom in quickly. This is a different kind of focus, right? It's saying, oh, look, I'm finding something out, right? The motion says that. What is the emotion and what is the intention of that motion? Why do we move when we get scared? Do we move slowly, or do we just quickly get scared and it's a fast, jerky movement? These movements are expressions. Movements are expressions of the narrative. And that's so important to understand. Think of the movement as the way you want the narrative to be revealed. I'm going to do a slow and then zoom in quickly, because I'm kind of telling you that this is being revealed. But I'm going to give you another different camera, a scale movement to show you the kind of difference in how that's going to affect the final narrative. So now we've got this slow and quick zoom in. And I'm going to actually take the second mark off so we don't get distracted, and just stay with that. For my taste, the zoom was a bit too quick. So I'm going to just move the keyframes a little forward, and we're going to do that. Right? Like, oh, look, I just spotted something, kind of a feeling, right? In that camera movement. And so now we're going to change the movement. We're going to right click on the keyframes, come down and click on toggle hold. Toggle hold keyframes are like, there's no interpolation between the two keyframes. So there's no easing or going to that next keyframe, like we're moving to that next keyframe. It's actually this frame and then shift to that frame. That's what happens when you do a toggle hold. And toggle hold is such a sneaky and powerful tool for motion designers, and artists and animators use it very deliberately in so many ways to create so many narrative effects. I want to just show you the difference between the earlier kind of camera zoom and this one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to toggle just when this sketch is going around. I'm going to take these keyframes and I'm going to just snap to them, right? And that's a little bit more dramatic, isn't it? I could even make it a bit behind so that it's happening while the curve is really happening. So, right? And it's a bit dramatic. It's like, oh my God, that's what I just found. Or look at this. Or it's an immediate effect. So the narrative storytelling here is like, that's the evidence that was missed, or that's the thing that I just found like out of the blue, right? You're telling a different story with the motion. When I'm doing it slowly, I'm revealing it slowly. When I'm doing it quickly and jagged, then I'm adding that impact. I'm adding that impact through the motion, and that impact causes that feeling in the audience, and that feeling is dramatic, right? And if that evidence is a dramatic evidence, then that's the motion I want to use, and that's the story I'm going to tell. All right, so now let's go to the second part. And now we're going to talk about the vintage and hybrid style mixture, which is a very iconic thing that Johnny Harris does. You'll see some parts in his videos where he'll have elements of modern graphics mixed with these vintage articles and imagery. And it's usually these images and articles with sketch markings. And the graphics don't really play a big part in terms of the arguments and the evidence that he puts forward in his videos, but they do add an aesthetic to these videos, and that's exactly what we're going to try to replicate in this part. So what I'm going to do is simply start by adding the assets that I want. So I'm definitely going to add some articles that I find are interesting. I think that's really cool, and I have prepared a theme in the honor of the Artemis 2 mission, which is ongoing at the moment. So we do have a space theme for this part of the video, just to honor the astronauts that are in deep space right now on the way back to Earth. And I also just really love space. So we have these two kind of old images that we are going to use. And by the way, I'm building this up completely from scratch live with you guys, and I think that's the best way to add as much value as I can, so you guys can actually see how I work and build up my projects, create compositions, and how I think on the fly. So you are still going to get the raw thinking process that I go through when I'm doing a project like this. Carrying on, I'm also going to add a few articles from the earlier sequence that we used because I really liked them. So I'm going to use maybe the article that we didn't show so much in the earlier sequence. So we're going to just copy that and paste it right here. And I'm going to just add it in the back in this place. And I'm going to just randomly add the stuff here just to first see what I'm working with. So we've got 3 vintage kind of assets. This is interesting. We've got this old spacecraft image, which we can also reuse, interestingly. And we've got these other images as well, which are more modern. So now we've got the modern and we've got the vintage assets. And here we have this kind of modern spacecraft imagery, this kind of Earth moon horizon image from where you can see the Earth, which is really cool. And I'm probably not going to use this one. I think I'm going to remove this. It's a bit too complex for what we need now. And we've got these 2 images. And right off the bat, what I notice is that the images look really different from each other. Like these images, the analog have this grainy texture on top. You can see it's old. Even this image here is like looking old, and these look really new. So what I want to do is I want to add specific guidelines to kind of bring those styles together. And what I usually do, where I want to show just images, say on a desktop, which is merging with these old articles and bring that modern kind of feel into the vintage, is add these modern image borders around the images that I want to kind of use to represent the modern part of the composition. So let me explain. What I'm going to simply do is come to shape and go to rectangle tool, and notice I have this layer already had selected the layer. So while the image is selected, if I go and click on a shape, I get this like cursor with this square and a circle inside, which is the mask tool. So if I now pull, then I'm not creating a shape, I'm creating a mask on top of the image that was selected. That's exactly what I want. So I've nicely, slightly cropped this image. I could even just click on that mask a little bit and crop it a little bit more. I think I like the fact that it'll be a bit more landscape. Perfect. And while I have the mask selected, I'm going to simply go into effects and presets, and I'm going to look for stroke. And then I'm going to just drag and drop the stroke. So if I increase the brush size, you're going to see that there you have the stroke. I'm going to leave it at 8. And let me show you guys how it actually looks. So there you have it. It looks like a nice little postcard image, which is perfect. Another thing that I want to do that I should have done right in the beginning is to add a little bit of interest in the background. So like we added the dotted background here, let's add something different here at the back. What I would like is maybe a paper texture. So I can go to my project and let's see, maybe I've got some paper texture here in these asset folders. Let's look at the collage assets folder, and there you have it. I can already see some paper texture numbers. I know that they are paper textures. So if I drag it in, you can see that this is just a really big picture of a crumpled paper. What about the second one? Maybe this is also interesting. This is really crumpled. I really like that, but I don't think this is going to help us at the moment. Maybe we can do something else with that, but I think we can work maybe with this one. And let's hide this for now, the number 7 one, which is way more crumpled. And let's rotate this to 90 degrees, make this kind of fill up the screen just tiny bit. Maybe it's a bit too big now. I'm going to still scale it slightly down, and I'm going to send it all the way back. And there you have it. That can be like a nice background. I'm going to quickly lock that so I don't move it while I'm editing it. But but I think that adds a really nice little texture and depth to this composition. So I'm going to R to rotate this image that we had edited before to add the border. I'm going to go -5. Maybe that's a bit much. Go to -3 maybe, and that's good for me. And I'm going to just place it somewhere random here. I'm not done with the placements yet. I'm still working on that. So I'm going to just lay it on the side. I'm going to take this second image, and this time I'm going to take the rectangle tool to mask this, and I'm going to make this vertical just to add that variation. And it's also a vertical, like the rocket is also standing vertically, so a vertical frame here looks just correct. I'm going to go to the other image that I had, and that is this one, and go to effects and control. And let's look for this image, take the stroke from here and just paste it on top of this. So now we've got this nice border here around here as well. And I also want to increase the size of this image slight bit, and that looks really nice. The SpaceX lunar lander looking gorgeous in this composition. So I'm going to just slightly rotate this as well. Just notice how I use rotation to add these interesting kind of like layouts and compositions. And again, I'm just kind of placing this here randomly right now. I want to also treat this image. So we're beginning with image treatments, and we'll see where we go from there. So what I want to do is take the pen tool this time. And now what I want to do is make this image like it's cut out with a scissor. And that again gives you this kind of collage like effect, but it still works really nice in the composition, and it still represents a little bit more of that handmade feel. So we've got this image here as well, and maybe this article is a bit too rotated. Let's bring this back down to 5 and put this here. Now let's take this second article, bring this in front, maybe resize it. And what I want is, I want this article actually to just peek through from behind this text article like that. And what I want to do is I'm going to just select the stuff that I want to work with. Look at this channel here. You see this little circle. If you just check those circles, so you solo those layers, so you can only see what you're working with. So that allows me to focus a little bit more when I'm working. And as I can see here, I would like to rotate this a bit more to show that diagram a bit more. And I want this to be covered like this. And I want this image to come from the back, and this is a lovely gorgeous image of this analog moon that we've got. And I can use this analog moon here again, overlapping like it's a document, a piece of paper or a piece of image, and just slightly rotate it and keep it here in the corner. So we've got the whole theme of space in this composition. Now I'm going to remove the solos, come back here and show me the other things. I can also add this slide image right here. I want to rotate this a bit more. 8 is fine for me. And I don't want to cover this nice like little illustration with the rocket, because that's an interesting thing to show in this frame. So I'm going to just slightly also kind of show it peeking out of the borders of the frame. That's something that I do often when I'm working with collage and when I'm showing imagery, to like use the frame in interesting ways, hide some things, show a little bit, show a bit more in some places, show a bit less in some places, all kind of adding and creating variation and interest to the scene. I'm also going to drop the size of this image nicely here, and I'm going to rotate it, press R, and I'm going to slightly rotate it like this, and maybe use a little bit of this blank space on the top left to add this image here. And I want to decrease the size of this image, and I want to press shift and / to quickly get the main, like the sizing of the image of the frame, so I can like understand the scale of the elements here properly. So I'm going to again press R here, slightly rotate it. I actually don't like the rotation on this way, because these are rotated this way. I want to rotate this one this way. Okay, and there you have it. So I think this is a nice starting point for like the layout. I want to add now obviously the modern graphics part. The hybrid aesthetic comes from the mixture of digital graphic elements on vintage, and I'm going to show you exactly what process I take and what kind of elements I use. Mainly you can use a lot. You can use patterns and textures to do this, but what I'm going to do is use just simple basic graphic shapes, and I'm going to add some effects to them to make it a little bit more kind of connected to the frame and the style that we want to go for. So what I also want to now do is actually bring this down slightly. and bring this up. I think that makes a bit more sense. And what I want to do now is add some modern graphics to this. I'm going to just go here and this time not have a layer selected. So select anywhere outside, and then I'm going to go to the layer and then just take a shape layer. And I'm going to just add an ellipse here. Keep in mind, this shape is very high contrast. We're going to have to use that carefully. Maybe in places where we want to add some focus, maybe. I can already see right here, I could use like this kind of diagram here and show some focus here or show some focus on the earth. We'll see what looks better. I want to just move this shape slightly, this article a little bit away, and to keep space for the shape. And I'm just going to add the shape here for now. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to make it slightly smaller and basically spread these circles around. I don't want to use this red everywhere, so I'm just going to right away go ahead and change the color. So I'm going to go to fill, and I'm going to also like pick blue maybe. I think that would make a bit more sense. I also don't only want blue. I also want to vary it with some other colors. So I want to go for this like lightish kind of blue. I think that's nice. And I'm also going to like take this one maybe, and I'm going to maybe go for something like green. Oh, that's a bit too light green. So maybe we want to go a bit darker like that. Nice. And we can also maybe go with this one, and I'll duplicate this, maybe add another one right here, slightly increase it, or maybe even make it a little bit medium sized and make these two, or maybe I can shift it a little bit more so that they don't like stay in one line. Keep this one blue and make this one yellow. So not like a very light yellow, maybe like just like this. What I would also like to do is actually add blending modes. So I want to turn this like bright spot into a kind of blended shape. And this is an interesting way of also like merging modern graphics with analog. What's interesting is that a high contrast shape like that can also be used to bring the narrative forward, right? We can use it to add attention and focus on specific things on the screen. So if I just go to overlay, for example, it gives you this nice washed out kind of focused shape. I don't really like the overlay so much. Maybe I can try something like multiply, which is the darker version, but then go press T on the keyboard and decrease the like opacity. And this is already really nice. Maybe I would also maybe make it slightly offset as well. And I also am thinking maybe better than orange would be something even more towards the red side to really bring that attention in. And I think that already looks really interesting and nice. What I would like to do also, which I usually do, this is my personal preference, is to add some things in the corner. So I've got something here in the project folder in the modern graphics folder asset. I've got a bunch of shapes here that I can use. So for example, I've got these stairs and they're yellow here. So I can always reduce the size of this and easily just put this right here. And what I want to do is recolor this. Because this is an image, I'm going to have to go to the effects controls, the effects and presets, look for fill, take the fill, drop it onto the image. Now we've got red as default and we're going to just pick the green. Awesome. And we're going to take this little green dot and maybe bring it here. I think that looks a bit better. So that adds some nice interest to this. I may also go to the project folder and look for something more. Maybe we can go for like a half circle. So what about this pink? This is perfect. So this pink half circle could also add some nice interest. And here's what I meant by the little corner thing. I can just rotate it slightly as well. And now we are getting somewhere really interesting. So as you can see, these like modern graphic elements also add this modern feel to this entire composition. Another thing that I want to do is actually try out my my plugin. And by the way, guys, this is a plugin that I've built completely on my own that's docked inside After Effects. It's a completely native AI plugin extension where I can generate images, generate videos, audio even. I can search anything from the web and bring that back into this extension. And I can also chat with AI and create notes. This has been a dream come true. It's been an extension I've wanted all my career, and I'm finally built it. I'm really proud of it. And yeah, I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of show you guys a little bit about how it works. So what I want to do is I want to have some more like physical analog objects that I want to add onto the screen. So one thing that comes to mind is definitely maybe paper clips. So I'll go into the search tab here in the extension. I'm going to type in paper clips PNG and press enter and see what it returns. And there you go. That's just perfect. So we already have a lot of paper clips here that we can use, but it's not really exactly what I wanted. So maybe I can look for like a single, so like single paper clip PNG and press enter and see what comes back. And there you go. Now we've got a bunch of paper clips we can use. I think this is the one that will work best. And what's awesome is that each image of course has an image toolbar, and this toolbar allows you to edit and do many things with these images. One of the things is to, with one click, send it into my composition and right into my viewport so I can work on it directly. So you can already imagine how much it reduces the time that people take to go out of After Effects and try to search for things while they're working. It's been such a time saver for me. It brings a lot of value to my workflow immediately, and I think it will bring to others as well. What I'm going to do is I'm also going to add a map to this composition, because you can't do a Johnny Harris style video without a map, because he specializes in maps. He's also got a map animation tutorial on his YouTube channel. You should check it out. And what we're going to do is add a map, and I'm again going to use my plugin and extension to get me a map from the web. So political map of India, why not? There you go. And it's so quick. And what do we have here? I guess we can work with most of them, but I think I like the one that's the cleanest, which is this one. So I'm going to just one click send it to my comp. I'm going to one click zoom out, bring this image down, and I'm going to animate this map in actually. And I'm going to rotate it slightly as well. -2 would be better. And I also don't like how perfect this image is. Maybe I want to add something like a texture on this image to make it a little bit more handmade, but I will animate this in a second. So we can now enter the last and final stage of this tutorial, which is to animate a bit of this sequence. So I'm going to go about showing you how I animate certain like paper and make it more realistic. What kind of motion do I use? How do I animate the modern graphics on top of it so that it doesn't overbear the analog part of the animation and the story, but at the same time complement it? And also I'm going to of course animate the map in and animate something on the map, just as an example of a map animation. The first thing I want to do is add a bit of effects and add some depth into this. I'm going to start with this image. I'm going to go into effects and presets. I'm going to go and look for drop shadow, drop it in here straight. And we've got something very, very subtle. So let's increase the distance just a bit. Let's keep it at 8. And I will also just put the angle slightly down. So maybe a little bit here is fine. And then bring this distance back again to 10. But maybe 10 won't do the job here because I changed the angle. So I'm going to make it 12. And that I think is already good. I don't want something more than that. And we can also increase the softness. So that really gives you this really nice little blurred out shadow effect, gives you that realistic style and visual. So I'm going to take the drop shadow and paste it. And this is important. You want to use the same drop shadow effect because you don't want like to be away from the consistency of the shadow. Like we've now decided the light source is on the left side of the screen because the shadow is falling onto the right. So you can't have a different shadow on some different objects. And I'm going to take this image as well, add a shadow in here as well. And as you can see, you've got some really nice shadow in here, 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 and that's more than enough for me. Looks really, really nice. Another thing that I really like to do is take all the modern graphic parts, so like these shapes, and add a blend mode to it. So I'm going to add something like multiply. And what multiply does is it really nicely blends the image into the background. You see the texture is kind of coming through. So I really like how it kind of merges with the background. And another thing that I did want to do is add some paper texture onto the map. So now I think we are ready to animate. So if I were to plan this out, what I would like to do is maybe have some things already on the screen and then some things kind of just slide in. So the papers just kind of slide in and then the map can slide in and then I can animate something on the map. I think that's a good way to go. So what I can decide is I take these things like this article, these two images in the side, this article as well, and maybe even this image in front, and let's animate these. So let's take these ones on the left for now. Let's put position keyframes and rotation keyframes. So I did Shift R to just show the rotation after the position. And what I'm going to do is I've already set the keyframe here. So I've locked the final position and then I go back and then I can take them out of the screen. And I don't want them to enter from the same way. What I could do is make a little bit of a change on the rotation. So -2, and this one could rotate the other way. So 4, and then it can kind of come in like this. I'm of course going to move this way ahead, say 10 frames. Let's just play it once. And what I want to do is also not have them from the side. Both of them can come from the top, one a little bit below. So what I mean is I can come here and actually just take the image and actually put it where I want to in terms of how I want it to come in. And this maybe is a bit too much. So I'm going to just bring them slightly in. One could already have been peeking in from here. And I can take this, slightly bring it closer, and it can just come in like that. Select all the keyframes, F9 on the keyboard to easy ease, right click, let's go to keyframe assistant, easy ease, and now it can nicely ease into the frame, and that looks a little bit like this. So what I want to do is actually reduce the amount it moves. So I'm going to just bring it closer, reduce the amount of rotation on this image. It was a bit much for my liking now. I would say -2 is fine. So something like that. That's totally fine with me. And I would also move this in front and slow it down a bit. There you go. And what I want to do is I want to now take the keyframes from the first layer or any of the layer you could choose and just stagger it a bit. And this is another pro tip. Remember what I said about variations. Remember what I said about small little imperfections and differences. That's what adds the interest in the motion. So by staggering those keyframes, I make the entry of both those layers not the same. It comes one after the other, or it comes slightly staggered. Another thing that I would like to do is also stagger even the properties inside the layers. For example, I can move the rotation keyframes and stagger them as well. So everything kind of happens in a different speed. And now you can already see how much more realistic and how much better the motion just got from what you just saw before. And what we can do now is go into the graph editor and actually edit those speed graphs, and that's really where the magic happens. So I'm gonna make it come in quick and then slowly like come into position, so something like that. But now because we've done this, we can now move this and give it some more breathing room for that motion to actually take place. So something like that. I'm going to move it even a bit more back and make it not that slow. So let's go with this. This is perfect. All right, so now we've got the ones on the left side. And while this happens, I'm going to animate, of course, the ones on the right side as well, a few. And so it's important also to really understand what to leave in the composition and what to leave out, and how to show just what's needed. All right, so now I'm going to animate the part on the right side. So what I want to do is just do a simple scale animation. So I'm going to press S on that layer, click the S keyframe already. And when this comes in, I'm going to just add the scale keyframe again, bring that all the way down to 0 and just make it kind of come in like this. Easy ease, graph editor. I'm going to make it nice and smooth so it can come in fast and then slow down like that. I think what I would like to do is also add another ellipse around it. So I just duplicated it with Command D, make this slightly bigger. What I'm going to do is add a stroke, like a white stroke, and remove the fill completely to remove this extra multiply effect. So as you can see, the blending mode is still on. So I'm going to turn the blending mode off, and now we can actually see the stroke. And what we want is, I don't want the fill in this second one. So we don't have that double multiply effect. And then I want to just increase this slightly, make the stroke way thinner. So say about 2, that's perfect. Bring this slightly down. And now what I want to do is, I have the scale effect here as well. So it will both scale up like this. I'm just going to stagger this, so it looks like a hotspot. Let's have one like this. So just stagger it a bit more. And I'm going to duplicate it again. Now this time make it smaller into the circle, and again stagger that. So what I want is not this keyframe, this one. The moment I edited that scale, it added a keyframe there. So I wanted to remove the older keyframe, and now it should look something like that. Right? So just adding a little bit of that focus over there, decrease the size of this circle even more, and that's it. Let's play it back from the start. And I'm going to now increase the composition time. Let's make it 4. And now we have enough room to add a few other things. I'm also going to unlock these background layers, select everything, and stretch it all the way to the timeline duration. And I'm also going to, of course, lock the 2 layers once again. And now another pro tip and a shortcut: Command A on the keyboard selects everything. Press A one more time, which opens the anchor point property for all the layers, and then press A one more time to close the anchor point. So it's a very quick way to like collapse all the layers. So Command A, and then it's just done. So I just run this again, the focus, and after that happens, I want the map to slide in. So I want it to stay on the focus for a little bit, and then just before the 2-minute mark, I want to animate the map in. And one thing I want to do before I animate the map in is add a little bit of texture to the map. So I was having that crumple paper texture right here. So here is the crumple paper, and let me see, the crumple paper is quite huge. We could increase this so the crumple effect would be a little lesser. And if you make it down, then it's a bit more. So I'm going to increase it a little bit more like this. Then I'm simply going to use a track matte. So I'm going to simply bring the texture below the map, and then go to track matte, and then select the map image above for the texture layer. And then once I click it, I have it now wrapped around the image. And now I want to just duplicate the map, bring it below the texture, and this time check the map on, but we can't see it yet. Now we'll go to the paper texture, go to mode, and just select multiply. And now the image is seen through to the map image below. So that's exactly how you want to set it up. I'm just going to quickly rename this India map. Perfect. And now this is very important. If I move the map, the thing kind of stays. It doesn't move with the image. As you can see, if I zoom in, there are these issues. So don't forget to take those 2 layers and pick whip it to the main layer that you're going to move around. And I also go in and add a different color to that layer using the labels plugin. Amazing plugin, by the way. You can get it from AE Scripts and plugins. I can put the link in the description below. And another thing in the meantime I added was also this, the sketch markings from the earlier sequence that I was showing you. So I kind of just copy pasted that into the new sequence. So it's just adding that one extra layer of like focus. And finally, we want to add a little bit of animation in the map. And what I want to do is, I simply want to create a duplicate of that map, and I'm going to call it MP, because we're going to isolate the state of Madhya Pradesh in the Indian map. And I'm going to show you a really nice way of highlighting things on the map. And this is something that Johnny Harris does all the time. And there are many ways of doing it. I'm going to show you the way that I prefer. So I'm going to just zoom in. And at this time, just take the pen tool, make sure that the map is selected. And I'm just going to easily trace along the borders of this. All right, now we've isolated the state. And what I want to do is simply put a stroke on this part. So one thing important is to know that in this layer, when you twirl it down, you're not done yet, because there was a mask before we created this second mask, because we masked the overall image and cropped it before using a mask. So that's the old mask. So if you zoom out, you can see the pink line is the actual old mask that we used to have. So what we want to do is remove that old mask, and now we only have that state. And now from there, I would just remove that stroke effect, keep that mask selected, go back to effects and presets. And now what I want to do is just go to stroke once more, take it, drag it onto the layer. And now if I increase the stroke, you'll see that the stroke is following the mask. And what I want to do is, it's the way I really like to highlight certain things on maps. So usually what people do is they highlight the front, but just to keep it dynamic and to give you guys just another really cool technique is to also work with the background of the image. So what I want to do is just take the India map, which is at the back. I'm going to duplicate it, and the India map too, I'm going to quickly rename it as black, and I'm going to go to the effects and presets, take the fill, drag it, drop it onto the black, change the color from red to black, and now we've just got a black screen. But what we want to now do is take that layer, take the opacity and drop the opacity down. And now you can already see how I can create a really nice highlight effect. And I'm going to go back to MP and change the color of that stroke. So we can go with something like black right there. And I think the stroke amount is a bit too much for my liking. I'm going to bring that down to around 4. And now what we have is a very interesting little highlighted thing. So what we want to do is now animate that highlight, of course. So what I want to do is take the opacity keyframe here, open up all the keyframes so I have a nice reference of context, take the opacity up here, and I will start with a full 100 opacity. And this is really cool. In the stroke effect, if you add stroke as an effect, you also get a start and end property, which means I can also do a trim path around that. So that's exactly what we need. So I'm going to take the end property, bring it up in front, and then as the background darkens, I'm going to move the stroke property from the highlighted area and increase that. So now we can have both the highlight and also the kind of dimming down of the background. What I now want to do is press U on this, and I got both the keyframes of the trim path as well as the dimming down. Of course, I'm going to stagger it, as you guys can guess by now. I'm going to now also ease the dimming effect. So F9 on the keyboard, go to the graph editor, slightly increase the pace in the beginning and slow it down gradually. And I'm not going to put easy ease on the trim paths because I feel like I like it when it's linear like that. It really nicely shows off the stroke pattern. What I want to do is maybe dim it slightly bit more. So maybe not that much. Maybe we can go to 60. And now if we play it back, it first comes in and then we kind of show a little bit of a highlight. That's our little Johnny Harris style sequence. And there it is. I hope you learned a lot from this video. And now you've got the toolkit. But knowing how Johnny Harris does it and knowing how you should do it are two different things altogether. But lucky for you, I created a visual storytelling basics course where it takes you from idea and concept to visual style and how to even create an animation out of it, all in one video, and it's this one. Click it and I'll see you there.